there we go. The hand flare, hand throw, whatever you want to call it. We waving these hands around. You know why? Because we're excited because we're doing another video today. Probably gonna, Scotty Kilmer it a little bit with the hand throws. But yeah, so check it out. This is what we're doing today. I'm gonna throw in a little video clip of some noise that my daily driver's been making. Timing belt. That's what we're doing. Timing belt and the tensioner, because the tensioner is failing. It's a hydraulic tensioner, and it's kind of just rattling around, flopping around. You hear a belt slapping until the belt warms up. It actually contracts, so it tightens up a little bit on its own. Just if you let the car idle, but it's not good because you can jump timing. If you turn the car on, cold start, you can jump timing if you just get up and going. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that. It shouldn't be too bad of a deal. Honda J series, guys, it's almost just like the B series back here, so I think everything's gonna go smoothly. Let me go ahead and stop yakking on this side of the camera. I'm gonna turn you guys around to the other side. All right, so before we get started, this is what I got going on, guys. Got the car underneath some shade. I picked up one of these awnings from my local Academy Outdoors. It was 50 bucks after tax. It's a 10 by 10. But this thing has come in handy. I use it for when I go shooting. I plan on using it next time I go fishing. And obviously you see, some automotive work. It really comes in handy because, even though there's some cloud cover, it's still really hot. It's hot, guys. It's probably, right now it's actually one of the cooler days. They're saying it's about, 95 degrees. So I got the awning set up. We're into some shade. I've been out here for a little while. Got the car cooling off because it's still kind of hot. I don't want to, burn myself because the timing belt's on this side and it's a tight fit up in there. I don't want to burn my arms up, so I'm gonna let the car cool off. This is gonna come out. I'll jack the car up. You guys don't need to see none of that. But also too, I got these Milwaukee tools here that I picked up a little while ago, and this right here is the big boy. This is the 2767, 1400 foot-pounds. So far, that thing has taken off everything that I've thrown at it so far. I mean, it's not much, but I do want to see if this thing with just a regular impact socket, must not be in there, but a deep socket, impact socket, can take off that crank bolt. Car's got 213,000 miles on it. I don't know when the last time that thing was removed, if it ever was removed. If the regular impact socket doesn't get it off, I do have my Lisle socket. It's a weighted socket. So we'll try regular 19 and pretty much like a thin walled socket. And if that doesn't work, we'll try this. When I did my suspension upgrade on the car, my lift kit, my DIY lift kit, I raised the car up about 2.5 inches all the way around, front and back. And using that impact, that Milwaukee, the big one, it took every bolt off without a struggle. Every bolt, just took it off like it was loose. So today's gonna be the real test on that crank bolt, because you guys already know those Honda crank bolts. And I don't have access to air. That's why I stepped it up and paid the extra money for the big one, because I don't have an air compressor and I'm more mobile and stuff. You guys kind of see how I work. So having the electric tools is a lot more beneficial to me. Plus, like, technology nowadays, everybody's, from what I know, I'm not full-time in auto tech, but from the stuff that I've researched and have watched and read about, the industry is definitely moving more away from pneumatic stuff and more towards the electronic stuff. So bigger batteries, stronger impact guns, better quality, so that's where it's going. So yeah, I'm gonna test it out and I'll go from there, guys. All right, so you guys, I got the car jacked up. I'm gonna start disconnecting this here air box, and then take off the intake here, just kind of free up some room. That way I have some area to put my hands and stuff, and I'm not cramped up trying to fight myself and waste time. Real quick, I got the wheel, like I said, I got the car jacked up, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that impact on the tire and to show you guys, no sweat, 110 foot-pounds of torque on those nuts, no sweat. So let's go on and get to it. make sure to disconnect your battery. Alright, so this right here looks like an ECU to me, the PCM, so I think I'm just going to unbolt it and try to remove it. This thing that I'm shining the light on, that's a cam cover. We need to get to that in order to put take the old belt off and put the new one on, and this is kind of in the way. I could probably do it without it, but I think I'm just going to remove it and try to make this a less hassle of a job, because I am recording, and recording videos and trying to do work at the same time takes 3 times as long as it normally would. Here's the one. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take the slack off this tensioner here. This is the Serpentine belt tensioner. So this hooks up to your alternator, your AC, and then back around, your power steering. Let me get a light down here so you can see. So this right here, that nut on there, that's a 14. I'm gonna have to use the other one. My socket's too deep. Yeah, it's too deep. Alright, so I got the other end of my tool on there. Instead of using the socket, I'm going to use this. Alright, so once you get it hooked on, I'm just going to pull it back towards the firewall, towards the car. And if you look closely at the belt, see I was taking that slack off the belt? Well, I got to put the camera down. I'm going to pull this back, and I'm going to use my other hand to go ahead and remove that belt off of there. Alright, so guys, you guys got this far with your job. Now would be a good time to visually inspect your belts. I plan on reusing this belt, but I'm going to look it over and just make sure it's not cracked up and that it's actually going to last a little while longer and I don't end up broke down somewhere. So just, you know, flip it over, check the ribs, make sure that everything's still intact, there's no cracks. This belt does look good. Also too, let me take you guys over here. This is also another good time to inspect your bearings and stuff on your pulleys, like on your alternator and even your tensioner here. You know, go ahead and spin it by hand, you know, listen for noises, you know, try to wiggle it back and forth, see if you feel any play in any of these things. Same thing for your tensioner here. All of these things run off bearings and they do fail, so now is a good time to really get in there and inspect it while you got everything out. So you guys got to remember that when you're doing the timing belt, you do have to take off the motor mount. That way you can get the old belt off and the new one in. And in doing so, you're going to have to put tension on the oil pan to support the engine when you take those bolts out of that motor mount. And this is what I mean here. I'm just going to get up underneath the car. I'll do my best to show you guys. And got the oil pan right here. Just gonna put the block under there just to support it a little bit. We don't want all of that weight just hanging there. And also too, you gotta use the wood, that way you don't put any dents in your oil pan. Remember, there's an oil pickup in your oil pan. If that gets smashed, it's not gonna allow oil to be sucked up through the oil pump. So use a block of wood, it's softer and won't do a lot of damage. Just be careful with it. So you see how I got that right underneath that oil pan? And just put a little bit of pressure, that's it. Hot. Look how toasted this mount is. This thing is so busted. I need to get a new one. That's crazy, guys. Look at that amount of slack. And that's just on this side. That's bad. That's not good at all. So 5 screws holding in the cam covers. Lots of slack. There's tension on it on this side though. That's a good thing. There's too much slack here. There's too much. So what I will do is I'm gonna spin this over by hand till everything's at top dead center before I take anything off. That way we don't bend any valves. And I'll show you guys what to look for in that real quick. Well, not the bent valves, but how to set the top dead center. Alright guys, so you got to get the timing in top dead center, and what that means is you want cylinder number 1 to be at the top. So we're going to have to turn the crankshaft while the belt's still hooked up to raise everything in the right position. On the cam gears, there's going to be a little mark on it. Okay, let me get a little pointer. You got a mark right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's also another mark here. There's another mark right here. There's one right here. And there's one right here. So we got all of these timing marks on here, and you're probably like, well, what the heck? Which one do I set my timing to? Well, there's also numbers. You got number 1, number 6, number 3. This is 5, 2. I can't see what that one is, but we want to set this number 1 in the upward position, so vertical. There's also a mark here on the back of the cam cover. Let me get a light on that so you guys can see. Okay, so we got another mark right here and a indent right there. So we want to get that number 1 line lined up with this here. We also need on the other cams, let me get a light on it, on this side here, there's also a marking, but there's only one marking on this side. So we got a marking on this side, and I can see it's right here at the tip of the screwdriver. Okay, there's no other markings on this here gear. We also want to make sure that that is also in the vertical position, lined up with this here indent. You guys can see that. So this needs to be up, this one needs to be up, and then we got one down here on the crank itself that needs to be up. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take the crank pulley off, and then you'll be able to see that mark. But before I do that, I'm going to try to just spin it by hand and get those other 2 cams lined up, and hopefully the bottom one will be lined up too. If it's not, then it'll be 180 degrees out, and we'll have to turn it again until everything is pointed in the right direction. So now when I take this crank pulley off, there will be a timing mark on that, and that should be in the upward position too. So I'll show you guys what the top looks like. So you see how we got this line here lined up with this one, and on this line right underneath where I'm tapping, where I'm tapping right there, it says number 1. So we can see that there's the timing mark right here in the vertical position, and it's also lined up right there. So let's go ahead and take off the crank pulley and see if all of that is lined up too. Alright guys, moment of truth. We're going to see if just this regular impact socket will be enough to to get it off. And now this is the 1400 foot-pounds. If that doesn't work, then I'll switch it up to the weighted socket, and I already know that'll come off. It'll take it off. All right, so let's give it a shot. All right. Socket's not really seated all the way on there because this is getting in the way. So I don't know if that's gonna play a role. All right, let's go. Yeah, I don't know about that one coming out. Plus the socket's not all the way on there. Just going to try this one. This is now the weighted socket. And that's it, guys. I took that thing right off. Look at that. Unbelievable. That took what, like 2 seconds with the right socket? And this one was only only part of the way on there. Maybe, I'd say probably a little bit more than a 1/4 inch on there. I don't want to risk rounding it out. You can see, look, this thing is off. Y'all that have worked on Hondas, y'all know how tight, how much of a son of a bitch it is to get these crank bolts off. Excuse my language, but y'all know it ain't easy. That comes off. Okay. See that little indent right there? There's a metal key that goes into that. Don't lose it. Let me get the camera up in here and show you guys what I'm talking about. This is the key. See that little block stuck in there. I'll get it out, but don't lose that, because if you lose that, then you're not going to be able to finish your job. All right, so I got to take, there's a lower timing cover on that I'm going to take off, and then go ahead and remove the belt. So I got the lower timing cover off, and just need to take off this. It's like a giant washer, and it keeps the timing belt from walking off the gear. This thing right here. So I'm going to pull that off, and as you see, we've got a little arrow right there. Let me zoom in. We got a little arrow right here pointing up, and then on the actual block itself we got an arrow pointing down. And what we need to do is make sure that this arrow and that arrow is perfectly lined up, and then that's how we know. If we have this arrow here lined up, and then on the cam gears up top, those are lined up, we know that we have top dead center and that we're safe. We're not gonna have any problems with the valves or anything while doing this job. So it could be moved just a tad, you know, but that's good. I'll make sure I get everything centered out once we take this belt off. So at this point, the main reason for this job was the tensioners failing or failed, and it's kind of hard to see because I got this plug in the way. This is the tensioner here. So there's two 10mm holding it in. I'm just gonna pop those off and then take this belt off. All right, guys, so got the tensioner off. This is the old one, and part of the reason why I know it failed is because, for one, I put my stethoscope up to it after I did a cold start on the car, and this thing was, you know, rattling. Also, like, you could just see, like, it looks wet around the top compared to the bottom, and that's because there's a seal in there, and that seal must have gave out, and the hydraulic fluid leaked over time. On top of that, you know, I can press this thing in. I just had it sitting on the ground and put pressure on it. You know, I'm able to move it in and out. I don't think it should be that easy, but pretty sure this is what the problem was. And it doesn't hurt to replace these things. This car's got over 200,000 miles on it. So, you know, it's just basic maintenance. There's some other things I need to do as well. Anyway, on this here washer that holds that keeps the timing belt from walking off, it's concaved. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on this. Well, it flares out, so this is like a bowl side. This side here is what needs to be against the timing belt. Okay? If you put it the other way, this thing's gonna eat into the sides of the belt, and we don't want that. So make sure you pay attention to when you're putting these back on, that the side that flares out flares away from the belt. Okay? All right, here we got the old belt, and it's gonna check it real quick. This is the new belt. I'm just gonna try to put it next to it just to make sure that it's about the same. Also on this belt, I wrote the miles on the car as well. That way I know, and I got a date on there when I purchased or whatever. Let's do a test fit. As you can see, they are the same belt. Start at the bottom, work your way up to that side, and then around to this side, and then back down to here. All the tension gets picked up on this side, so that's where you want all your slack to be. That way when you release tension from the tensioner, it eliminates all that flop. So let's go ahead and try to feed this up. All right, so I got it on. This cam gear is a little bit more fidgety, keeps wanting to come back. So, you know, you just put a 17 over it and you got to work it back, you know, and just keep the tension on it. But yeah, it's on. So I'm gonna go on and look at the timing, the marks, and make sure everything's lined up on both cam gears plus the crank down there. If everything's good, then I'm gonna pull the pin on that tensioner and release the tension, and then I'll turn the crank probably like two or three turns or whatever it is, revolutions, and double check to make sure that the timing falls back in top dead center and everything's lined up the same. Okay, if you got this one right here and this one is in the perfect spot, this one's in the perfect spot, but the bottom one's off, then you got to redo the whole job all over again. Otherwise, if you crank it up, you're going to risk damaging internal parts and cost you even more money. So I just double checked everything. It all looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull that pin, that little grenade pin we were talking about earlier, and it's gonna pick up the slack. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out, and I'll check the timing. Here we go. Dang, that thing is on there tight. Don't really come out like a grenade pin. I mean, you gotta fight this thing. All right, guys. So I gave it two full revolutions down here at the crank, and I'm going to show you how everything's lined back up. So let me go ahead and remove this. See, those arrows are lined up right there in the middle. Now we'll go ahead and check our cams. See, that's lined up perfectly. We got that, you see where it says 1 right there. So if we look straight at the cam, that's right on the money. And then the same thing with this side here. So we're good to go. We're good to go. So what I'm gonna do from this point is I'm just gonna go ahead and put everything back together. I mean, you guys don't really need to see that. It's just the reverse of what we just did. And go ahead and fire it up, and I'll let you guys hear that. So we'll touch back as soon as I have everything back together. All right, moment of truth. Time to fire it up and see how she runs. Yes, it's nighttime. I've been working probably off camera maybe an hour or so, just kind of taking my time, and You know, I had to put everything away, put away all my tools, my canopy, put that away. Filled up the back tire with air because I got a little leak going on. It was a nail in the tire. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn her on. Everything sounds good. Oh man, she sounds so much better. Whoa. Sounds good, guys. Mission complete. You know? But I want to thank everybody for showing support to the channel, and this video was a fun one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that thumbs up, please. But I'll see y'all in the next video. Y'all be safe.